And we are rolling. Hey guys, it's your buddy Jake Dominguez back with another movie review. Today I'm going to review Power Rangers, directed by Dean Israelite, the brand new 2017 reboot of that thing that every single kid born in the 90s was obsessed with in the 90s. So, before I even begin this review, just one little tidbit. I don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but I gotta bring it up. Isn't it sad that every single movie that I review lately just seems to be like a reboot or a remake or something? Think about it. I did the review of Beauty and the Beast. I did the review of Kong Skull Island. I am going to do a review of Ghost in the Shell, which comes out this weekend, which I'm really excited for because I love the original anime film so much. But everything I review is a reboot or a remake. And this isn't news to you guys. You know that Hollywood doesn't make a lot of original films anymore, especially these original blockbusters, to be exact. And that's kind of sad, and that's too bad. If they're good movies, if they get great filmmakers to make these movies really good, if it's a property that they really care about, and they have a great story to tell with that property, then great. That's really what matters at the end of the day, right? As long as they're good, as long as they're well made, as long as I'm emotionally engaged with them, that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. A good movie is a good movie, no matter if it's a remake or original or not. But either way, it is still kind of sad. And gosh, even looking in the future, I'm going to do a review of The Fate of the Furious, a review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I'm super excited for them, but they're all franchise films. And look at me, I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt right now. I'm guilty. I love these movies. But, gosh, I need to review some more original films, is what I'm saying. It's kind of sad, but that's the world we're living in. And again, as long as they're good, I guess it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But, oh well, let's get to the review. Also, I have a light that's broken in my room right now, so if this seems a little darker than normal, that's why. I'm sorry about that, but well, enough distractions. On to the review. So, Power Rangers, again directed by Dean Israelite, tells the story, basically what we know from the original show. It tells the story of a bunch of teenagers, and they're all outcasts. None of them fit in. They hate going to school. They have troubles at home. And through a bunch of mysterious things, they end up finding these mysterious alien rocks. And these alien rocks leads them to meet of course, whoa, I'm totally messing this up. It leads them to find Zordon. Remember him, the gigantic head from the original show? And he tells them about how he was once a Power Ranger and how these bunch of evil people, like Rita Repulsa, the main villain in this movie, are going to come to destroy the world, blah, 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 blah. And so he's going to teach them how to become Power Rangers. And so the whole film is them training and learning how to be Power Rangers and what it means to be a Power Ranger, and tons of awesome action sequences, etc., ensue. Now, when I was a kid, Power Rangers was everything. I had the toys, I had pajamas that were Power Rangers. Me and my brothers would constantly watch it. It was such a cultural phenomenon. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but the original Power Rangers show, and to my knowledge, just every spin-off after it, is just a Japanese TV show. I'm forgetting what it's called now. I think it's called Super or something. I don't know. But it's made in Japan. And what they did to make the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers show was that they took the footage from the original Japanese show. It's literally called Power Rangers. Again, I wish I could remember what it's called. And they added new footage. So they shot all the other stuff in America with them being teenagers. You know, this cheesy soap opera, really beyond corny stuff with them as teens. And they took that and added it to the show. So it all looks like it's just filmed together in one episode. What's even weirder is that Japanese show is still going on to this day, to my knowledge. And I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that's just what every spin-off of Power Rangers is now. They just took the Japanese footage and added the newly shot American footage to create this thing called Power Rangers. I mean, this is literally two brands getting mixed together. That's what Power Rangers is. Really interesting, right? I didn't know this until recently, so it's crazy to think about. But no matter how it's made, and boy, is that a weird way to make a show, it's still it's still big. I still know little kids who watch these Power Rangers show. And even though I definitely have mad nostalgia for it, like I definitely watched it, I not as, was even as into it as other kids were. I was more into like Batman, the animated series, and Superman, the cartoon, all the WB shows, and all that. Like I wasn't as into it as other kids were. So I'm not the hugest Power Rangers fan in the world, even though I did watch it as a kid. It was impossible to ignore. And I went into this film just kind of shrugging my shoulders, just hoping it would be good. I wasn't blown away by the trailers. It looked kind of like Chronicle meets Power Rangers, kind of. So we'll see. So I went and saw it, and I'm happy to report that I actually had fun with this movie. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. This is a very entertaining movie, and I thought it was pretty good. Is it a great movie? I don't think so. There are some problems here. It is by no means a perfect film. There really is no such thing as a perfect film. And this movie does have some flaws, but overall, I had a lot of fun with it. The main thing I think that really won me over with this movie, the thing that I loved the most about it, was the kids. So the main cast in this film, the 5 main kids, all the Power Rangers, you remember them from the original show, they are all great in this movie. I don't immediately recall every single one of those 5 actors' names, but every single one of them was fantastic. They were surprisingly really, really good. Each of them, like, they felt like they weren't just acting. There's a lot of scenes with them just talking with one another and joking with one another, and it felt very real. It felt very grounded. And all the cast, really for the most part, I'll get to that in a moment, was fantastic. But these kids were seriously great. But for me, the one that really stole the show is, I believe his name is R.J. Cyler. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He was in Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. He played Earl in that independent film, if you remember that one. He is really great in this movie. He is really the heart of this film. A lot of the humor comes from him. He stole the show. He was awesome. I think he did such a great job. And all of the 5 main actors, the Power Rangers themselves, did great. And the writing for their scenes was really good. It felt so grounded in reality. And that's my favorite thing about this film, is that for the most part, again, I'll get back into that in a bit, but it feels grounded in reality. I mean, I don't want to call it gritty and dark. Like, that's not really the right terms to use, because I've seen that used to describe this film a lot. I don't think that's true. And for me, it feels more grounded. That's the word I would use. This movie feels, for the most part, as real and believable as you can make the Power Rangers franchise feel in a real world. When we see these kids, they talk and act like normal kids. When we see them talk to Zordon and Alpha 5, played by Bill Hader, it feels like a real conversations. These aren't super cheesy things and super cheesy dialogue and acting like we see in the original show. It feels very grounded in reality. It feels like it's trying to make it as believable as it could be for Power Rangers, for the getting up in the giant suits and fighting monsters and all of that. And I think that's fantastic. A great example of that is what Christopher Nolan did with the Dark Knight films. That's probably the best example that comes to mind, and I'm sure that's what everybody's copying off. And for the most part, that's what I liked most about this film. It feels pretty grounded in reality, which I thought was pretty awesome. And the cast of kids themselves. The rest of the acting is great too. Bryan Cranston as Zordon, he was great. Now, I don't know if you know this, but one of his very first acting jobs was actually doing voice work in the original Power Rangers show. He actually did little minor voice work for that character. I forget exactly what characters he did. I think he did a few other things. But think about it. Bryan Cranston just might be the greatest actor living today. I'm standing by that. I think he's probably the greatest actor in the world. I mean, that guy is incredible. And he got to start doing voice work in Power Rangers. In fact, the character Billy Cranston in the show and in this movie, he's actually named after Bryan Cranston. Interesting, huh? There's some trivia for you. And he does great as Zordon. Now, you're probably thinking, what? He did a great job as a gigantic floating alien head? Yeah, he did. He's the greatest actor in the world. He can do that. Trust me, I've seen the movie, and he does fantastic. Bill Hader plays Alpha 5. Remember that robot in the original show? He plays him in this movie, and he does really good. I thought he was really funny. I've talked to a few people who found him a little annoying, which I guess I understand, but compared to the original show, it's not saying much. Gosh, even as a little kid, I knew Alpha 5 was annoying on that original show. Yeah, anyway, so that didn't really bother me that much. All the cast is pretty great. The action sequences are a lot of fun. Pretty much the entire third act of this movie is nonstop action, and I thought it was a really enjoyable, really fun. And there was a little bit, at least in the beginning, there was a little bit of like slow-mo going on. You know what I mean? Like, you know when you watch some of Zack Snyder's movies or whatever, and there's like slow-mo going on? Like, it's like they're going really fast, and then they go really slow for 3 seconds, and then they go fast again. Have you seen that kind of effect? Like, the Matrix films did it a little bit. They did a little bit of that in the beginning, and I wasn't too crazy about it. It didn't look that good, to be honest. But it was only a little bit in the beginning, and the rest of it was just good old action, and I thought that was a lot of fun. And there was a lot to enjoy in this movie. Overall, it was a very fun movie, really entertaining, and I enjoyed myself while watching it. And really, it made me want to see the sequels, and made me say, okay, this is going to be the start of a new franchise that I want to see what happens to these characters next. Because I thought the 5 kids were so great and did such a great job that I wanted to see what happens in their next adventure. And for me, when you make a franchise film and I want to see the sequel, job well done. That your goal accomplished, right? So overall, I liked Power Rangers. But like I said, there are some problems here. This is by no means a great, perfect film. And let's talk about one actress who I forgot to mention. She also does a great job, but she also represents probably my main flaw with the movie. I'm talking about Elizabeth Banks. She's a fantastic actress, and she plays Rita Repulsa in this movie. She does a really good job, but oh man. So in a nutshell, my biggest problem with Power Rangers, this movie, is that it does kind of feel like there's 2 different movies going on. Let me explain that a little better. It feels like it doesn't know what movie it always wants to be. For the most part, it's a grounded reality-based movie. Yeah, it's Power Rangers, yeah, it's the suits, yeah, it's aliens and all that, but it feels real. The writing is so good, it makes it feel like it's grounded in reality, and you buy it, it's believable. On the other hand, Power Rangers also feels like it wants to be just a Power Rangers with a big budget. You know what I mean? Remember the TV show, how cheesy it was, how over the top it was? There's times in the movie where it feels like that. They're trying to be as cheesy and over the top and corny as the show, only with like the big budget version with slightly better acting and actually really good special effects. So tonally, this movie can feel a little off at times. And the reason I bring up Elizabeth Banks is that she is going way over the top as Rita the Repulsa. I mean, you've ever heard of eating the scenery? You ever heard that expression used? Oh, he was really chewing the scenery during his part in that play or in that movie. Yeah, she is not just eating the scenery, she is like devouring the scenery and then regurgitating the scenery and then eating it again because of how over the top she is in this movie. That metaphor was a lot more disgusting than I intended it to be. But wow. Okay, forget what I just said. My point is, she's really over the top. And it's fun, and she does a great job, and it's kind of enjoyable from that angle. But without getting too spoilery, every scene that she is in this movie, she is just going for it. She is going really big and silly and over the top. And she does a great job doing so, don't get me wrong. She's not the problem. But compared to the rest of the movie, the 5 main actors, the Power Rangers themselves, they feel so realistic and grounded in reality. And I feel like they're really trying to act, as real as you can in these Power Ranger world. And then you have like Elizabeth Banks, and she's going huge and over the top. And she does a good job, she's a lot of fun, but it does kind of feel like she's in a different movie. And let's talk about that third act. The third act, like I said, is tons of action. And that's when we really get the bulk of them dressed up in their suits and fighting in the giant robots and all of that. And it's interesting. I have gone and read other reviews for this movie and watched other reviews. I try not to do that because I don't want my opinion to be mixed up with other people and have it influence them. But I didn't see this movie right away, so it was kind of hard for me not to. And I have heard people who were really bothered by that tone. I've heard people who say that it kind of lost them once the third act came around, or once, to be more exact, whenever any of the action scenes happened. Because the action scenes are very silly and fun and fast-paced, and it feels a little different from the realistic tone the rest of the movie has. It just feels totally based. I've heard people who liked, the realistic grounded stuff with them as teens just hanging out and training more than the action scenes. I've also read people who have this exact opposite reaction. They liked all the over-the-top Power Ranger stuff, but they didn't like the other stuff. I think it's going to be kind of controversial how tonally inconsistent this movie can be. But for me, just me personally, and maybe this is just me being alone on this, but for the most part, even though some of the silly and over-the-top stuff was there, it didn't bother me as much. Because there was so much time being spent on setting up these characters in a realistic, grounded fashion, and because I cared about these 5 main actors so much, I wanted to see what would happen next, it didn't really bother me when the over-the-top stuff happened because I bought it. You know what I mean? When it happened, I recognized it, and because it spent so much time setting it up, when it happened, it didn't take me out of the movie like, oh, this is ridiculous and stupid. No, I kind of bought it because I knew this was a realistic world that was spent so much time being set up in. And so, for me personally, I am alone in that, but it didn't bother me as much. It's there, but because of the tone of the movie, I thought it was just well enough so it didn't totally bother me. In terms of other flaws with this movie, sometimes the plot does feel a little bit contrived at times. How do I even explain this? So, for those of you who have seen the movie or have read other reviews of the film, this isn't news because everyone's talking about it. But Power Rangers 2017 has the most over-the-top, on-the-nose product placement I have ever seen in a movie. You ever been to Krispy Kreme's, the donut shop? I used to go there all the time when I was a little kid. Krispy Kreme's. Oh, their donuts are good. Krispy Kreme's is a plot point in the Power Rangers movie. I'm not kidding. I'm being 100% serious. Krispy Kreme's is a major plot point in this movie. As the Death Star was a plot point in the original Star Wars, Krispy Kreme is the Power Rangers. Okay, maybe that's a bit of exaggeration, but I'm not even kidding. I mean, I can't even talk about it because it's a plot point. It's a spoiler, so I can't even go into a lot of detail. But Krispy Kreme's is in this movie. There's a Krispy Kreme's in Angel Grove, and it's a serious plot point. Wow. I wish I could go into more detail, but I can't. It's literally a spoiler, so I can't talk about it. But I'm dead serious. It's a plot point. And I couldn't decide if, wow, that's stupid, that's terrible, that's corporate, you lost me. Or if I was like, that's silly, that's stupid, that's hilarious, I love that you went there. I think I was mostly on this side, but I don't know. It was like, there's one scene in particular inside the Krispy Kreme's with Elizabeth Banks. If it wasn't in the movie, I wouldn't complain, but that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, not since Castaway, when Tom Hanks had Wilson the Ball as his friend, has there been such on-the-nose product placement. I couldn't believe it, and it's kind of hysterical, actually. I don't know, it is what it is. I feel like product placement is kind of a weird thing to complain about in 2017. I feel like it's a moot argument to have at this point, but wow, they went there. In the end, moving on, this movie I think will lose people just because based on those tonal inconsistencies. But overall, I had a lot of fun with it. I think people who loved the Power Rangers growing up will love this movie. I think little kids will love this movie. And in the end, I enjoyed it, I had fun with it, and I want to see what happens next in the story. I want to see sequels. And again, when you make a franchise movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to see the next one. Mission accomplished. You got my ticket, and I think that is a good thing. So I'm going to give Power Rangers 2017 a B. A solid B. I think if you want to have a good popcorn eating time at the movies, I think this movie will do it for you. Alright guys, hang tight. I got more reviews coming right up. I'm super excited to share them with you. And never forget, ever forget, I'm your friend. I am always going to be there for you. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. And I'll see you next time.